Kind of like this morning, right? Yeah, don't do that science experiment if you want to keep a girl around. Yeah. It's very off-putting. Do what? Oh, what the experiment was? Yeah, leaving raw meat out on the counter and let it grow maggots and flies. It's great. That's how you know it's time to clean.
I didn't do that, by the way.
Every 7th and 8th grade boy in the congregation smiled at that.
Oh, yeah, because he went home and go, Mom, can we try that experiment? He'd be like, cool, Mom. And Mom's like going, I'm going to talk to the pastor afterwards. Yeah. Oh, trust me, yeah. I was going to camp when my refrigerator tanked out on me. Yeah, and I also lived in a small house that didn't have central heat and air. It had window units, so I turned all the air conditioners off. So I was going to camp, and apparently it must have gone out like the day I left. When I returned home, I had a plague of Egypt within the house. I didn't bother cleaning it. I just duct taped the refrigerator closed and rolled it through the house, and out in the lawn it went, and into the bed of the truck. So, 2 Samuel. Chapter 13. Say again? No, I took, where I used to live used to be a sand and gravel quarry. And there's like this huge, giant hole. Over it into the hole it went. And I just went, bye-bye.
They dig that up 200 years from now. They're going to wonder.
They might find Jimmy Hoffa in that thing. Yeah. Yeah, I just got to tell you, that's like a level of disgusting that you don't ever want to see or smell. Tidbit. To go back to last week's, we were asked a question about, and it was brought up by Victoria, about whether it was under or through. And when you go and you look at the commentary discussion on it, the older guys, 18th century and later, say under. And then I got to looking, and one of them, for instance, says, so the new guys go read 1 Chronicles chapter 20. 1 Chronicles chapter 20, what happens here in 2 Samuel 12 at the end, there's a discussion of a manuscript kind of discussion going on. There's 3 manuscripts within the Septuagint that give some different issues. But in 2 Chronicles, it says, and he put them to labor. And so that's where the distinction comes from. I should have caught that last week. But there's the answer for everyone else. So, makes sense? I got caught flat-footed. I went, I don't know. So I went and looked. I kind of enjoyed that. So I go back and take a look at it. So to answer that question, its answers in 1 Chronicles, chapter 20, verse 3. We're in chapter 13. And remember this morning, if you were here, I said the plagues are like one bearded lady away from a freak show. This is the bearded lady and the freak show. I mean, if you have been following David's history, he's doing this great thing, doing well. Chapter 11, he seems to hit a high water mark, and his whole family just begins to do this, right? And just, circle, they're spiraling right into the ground. And just when it starts to look great, David goes out, he conquers the city, even though Joab does most of the work. He was there. I mean, it's kind of like, that close Vikings game that wasn't last week. Anyhow, I had to work it in, I had to work it in. Although Steve Matos must be happy because the Miami Dolphins finally won. Anyhow. Just when it starts looking good, then you get to chapter 13. And it just doesn't go up. It turns freakishly very weird. And so...
sort of a billboard for high and tight hairdos in the military.
Yeah.
For high and tight hairdos in the military.
Yeah. Yeah, this is really quite a sad blight, even in David's household. So remember, the sword is never going to leave David's hand. His house is always going to have troubles. And up comes this event. So we're going to get started here. Now Absalom, David's son, had a beautiful sister whose name was Tamar. And after a time, Ammon, David's son, loved her. And Ammon was so tormented that he made himself ill because of his sister Tamar, for she was a virgin. And it seemed impossible to Ammon to do anything to her. But Ammon had a friend whose name is Jonadab. Yeah, caught me there flat-footed. The son of Shema, David's brother. Great. This sounds like an Arkansas family reunion, right? This sounds like sounds about how a family discussion begins in Arkansas, in West Virginia too. I mean, it's either one, you know. David's brother, and Jonadab was a very crafty man. Not a kind of polite thing to say, right? There's a polite way of, it's like saying, well, bless your heart. Right? The best you can say about the guy is, he's a crafty guy. Not handy, not shrewd, not... It kind of is giving you the nefarious nature of who the guy is. And you'll see, yeah, he's the guy you don't want to be around when the cops show up. And he said to him, "Oh, son of the king, why do you look so haggard morning after morning? Will you not tell me?" And Ammon said to him, "I love Tamar, my brother Absalom's sister." And Jonadab said to him, "Lie down on your bed and pretend to be ill. Get her drunk at the bar. Slip this into her drink. And it'll all be all right." No, it won't be all right. When you start there, if that's your high watermark for a relationship, it's going to go south very quickly. Pretend to be ill, and when your father comes to see you, say to him, "Let my sister Tamar come and give me bread to eat and prepare food in my sight." I have no idea why that would be helpful, but apparently that worked for an excuse. "Then I might eat it from her hand." So Ammon lay down and pretended to be ill, and the king came to see him, and Ammon said to the king, "Please let my sister Tamar come and make a couple of cakes in my sight that I might eat it from her hand." Apparently, she has miraculous healing. I mean, as a dad, I'm thinking, I'm about ready to shoot you. I got it, you're my kid, but I'm sitting in mom. Well, no, I'm not that sick. That's what I thought. You know, I don't know if any of you have kids that get sick. Actually, Caroline and Kimberly love school. Where's why? There she is. Caroline and Kimberly love school. I hated school. I did everything I could do to get out of going to school. So we don't necessarily have that issue with them going to school, but for other things, boy, it's like pulling teeth. I mean, am I right? I'm lying, I'm dying. Don't mess with Kimmy, though. She'll negotiate for your wallet, and you'll thank her for when you give it to her. But I'm looking at this, I'm like going, how is David looking at this situation and going, well, yeah, it makes perfect sense. It's your sister. I guess he's just believing that none of this, what is going to occur, could ever occur. I guess that's what's going through his mind. I just would, the minute somebody would say that to me, but again, that's me reading back onto the text. Maybe he's looking at this and go, Ammon's sick. It's not uncommon for one family member to tend to the other family member. It's not uncommon for one family member to go and take care of it. But why Tamar specifically? And why eat from her hand? That's the part that sounds weird to me. Feed yourself, right?
There's something weirder further back up.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you look and he says, "I love Tamar, my brother Absalom's sister." Why didn't he say my sister?
Because
trying to make it sound better, or was she actually his half-sister?
She is his half-sister. He comes from a different wife. And so, but, now, we'll save that. We'll save that for a minute here. We'll get into the discussion here in a minute. So, but also, look at that. I have made myself ill for her. Is that a healthy way to begin a relationship? I got nowhere to talk. I stalked my wife for a year and bought a bunch of books. Some I've read and many still sit on my shelf. They look cool, though. You know, I got guys like Karl Barth on my shelf. Many of you don't know who that guy is. Google search him. He's like super respected in the theological world. People go, oh, you read Barth? Yes. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I have read a page or two to where I can actually say, yeah, I've read that book. So I got nowhere to go. I mean, I stalked her for a year. I think she married me just to get me to stop stalking her. But she wasn't my sister, and this is in Arkansas. So, and so, I mean, he is madly in love with her. But notice, what reason is he madly in love with her? Did you catch it when we read through it? Her beauty, her brains, or something that the text describes her as? She's a virgin. Of all the things he could cite for why he is lovesick over her, the one thing he cites is the one thing he cannot have. She's a virgin. Not she's the most beautiful woman I've ever met. She's an absolute stunner. She's so smart, God takes notes from her. It'd be blasphemous when he said it, but still, I mean, none of that. Notice what he says. I'm tormented and make myself ill, or tormented and makes himself ill because of his sister, for she was a virgin. And it seemed impossible to Ammon to do anything to her. Does he really want her? Is he really after Tamar? Or is he after something about Tamar? And we'll see here later on, I think he's really about something about her than about her because of the way he treats her afterwards. Let's see here. Then David sent home to Tamar saying, go to your brother Ammon's house, prepare for him food. So Tamar went into her brother Ammon's house where he was lying, and she took dough and kneaded it and made cakes in his sight and baked cakes. And she took a pan and emptied it out before him, and he refused to eat. And Ammon said, send everyone out from me. This is kind of odd, is it not? It's very odd behavior. Send everyone away so we can be alone within the house. Very odd behavior. Then Ammon said to Tamar, bring me the food into my chamber that I may eat from your hand. And Tamar took the cakes and she made that she had made and brought them into the chamber of Ammon's brother. And when she brought them in, he took hold of her and said to her, come lie with me, my sister. And she answered and said, no, my brother, do not violate me, for such a thing is not done in Israel, and do not do this outrageous thing. As for me, where could I carry my shame? And as for you, who would be as one of the outrageous fools of Israel? Now, therefore, please, we're going to read this little section. We're going to stop and discuss this. There we go. Speak to the king, for he will not withhold you from me. But he would not listen to her, and being stronger than her, he violated her and lay with her. Tricked her, tricked Dad into sending him, deceived her to dismiss the staff, bring it into the rooms with the cakes. She comes in, and then she says, hey, stop what you're doing. This is unjust and unright. And where would she get this understanding that these things should be unjust and unright? Other than the fact that it's just morally wrong to do.
The Torah?
Yes, that's a pretty good answer. It's like saying the Holy Spirit.
Is it?
Yeah.
Because it's an actual document she would have had access to.
Yeah. Where in the Torah, do you know? Uh-huh. There is a text in Deuteronomy. But there's also a text that precedes them all in Genesis. In Genesis 34, this is why Levi and Simeon cannot be heirs to the throne. This is how Judah. This is one of the ways in which Judah ends up becoming the heir to everything. Judah should never have been the chief tribe of all the Israelites. Judah's 4 deep. Reuben is destroyed because Reuben does what? Sleeps with his daddy's concubine. Levi and Simeon, do you know why Levi and Simeon are disqualified? Their sister is raped by a prince in a neighboring town. And they trick the entire town's inhabitants of men to become circumcised. And the text says on the 3rd day when the pain was at its greatest, Levi and Simeon went in with their swords and killed every man. And they were cursed, and therefore they are now out of the line. And who does that leave as the head of the households? Judah. In the action of 3 treacherous acts. And so the Jews would have this story long before they get to the text. But let's say he doesn't rape her and he says, well, okay, I'll go ask Dad and Dad will give her to me in marriage. Would David be able to do that?
Well, Egypt did it all the time.
Uh-huh. But could David do it? Well, let's take a look. If somebody's got Leviticus, can somebody turn to Leviticus 18:11? And I need another individual to read, turn to Leviticus 20:17, and then another person turn to Deuteronomy 27:22. Let me know when you get when we get to Leviticus 18:11. Who's got 11? Hey, you got it, Walter? Will you read that for me?
It says, you shall not uncover the nakedness of your father's wife's daughter brought up in your father's family, since she is your sister.
Okay. You shall not uncover the nakedness. Now, when this happens to Moses and Ham uncovers his father's nakedness, that's something different than what they're describing here. And that was Ham looking back and taking a peek. And this phraseology, this really is hyperbole for sleeping with, having a relationship with. You just don't have these relationships. So could David, based upon this verse, give Tamar to Amnon? Ammon. Could you do it? What about 2017? Who's got that?
One question.
Yeah.
It says here, let me get father's wife's daughter. Now, is that stepdaughter or
Stepdaughter.
His full daughter? Stepdaughter.
Well, in this case, Tamar is her father's wife's daughter, right?
His half sister, but is this considering a half sister or his father's wife? Could that be? It leaves kind of vague there, whether it's a full sister or a half sister.
Well, I think it's both half and full sister, because the phraseology, it says your daughter or your father's wife's daughter, which means you may have multiple wives. So your dad's wife's daughter, because your mother may be a different mother. And that's what the case is here. So can David give this child in wedlock to Amnon? No. Not at all. Now, she quotes these verses to get him to realize, one, he's about ready to do something that Israel has seen as such an offense. And by the way, another time in which a young concubine was raped, Benjamin just about got the stuffings kicked clean out of it. Book of... It was the Levite's concubine. The book of, remember the book? What book is it? Judges. 11 tribes to sword up and go out and put a hurt on Benjamin. Now Benjamin took some serious licks out of the other 11 tribes, but they eventually so punished Benjamin that they almost stopped existing. They had to take pagan wives in order to fill their ranks. So, who's got 2017? Leviticus 2017. Okay, Joyce.
If a man takes his sister, a daughter of his father or a daughter of his mother, and sees her nakedness, and she sees his nakedness, it is a disgrace, and they shall be cut off in the sight of the children of their people. He has uncovered his sister's nakedness, and he shall bear his iniquity.
Kind of similar language she says. This is outrageous and of the fools of Israel or in Israel. He shall be, but notice the late phraseology. The first one just says you don't do it. This time it says that what's the penalty for doing it? They shall be cut off. Again, this is that's hyperbole. They don't really cut things off. He's removed from the fellowship of Israel. But here's the thing. Well, let's read 27 and we'll come back. 27, 22. Brother Clark.
The man who sleeps with his sister, the daughter of his father, or the daughter of his mother, and all these shall say it.
So cut off, now cursed, and this is a repeat within the law. There's these three prohibitions. The problem, though, is, David, isn't there a prohibition in there about having more than one wife? Man, who's the exemption for the more than one wife clause that's in this book? Starts with a D, has an A. David. And when he sins against Bathsheba, what does the Lord say? Had you wanted X quantity more, I would have given you X quantity more. Now, I don't think that God is being overly literal there. I think in that situation, he's making a point that when you stole this woman from an individual, had this been something so all-consuming, we could have, looked at this and I would have given you more in that area. Huh?
He would have come to me first.
Yes. And David has wives and concubines. How many do we know of so far? Yeah, but he's probably got a lot more by this time because he's got older kids now. Huh? Who, David? Yeah, can you imagine if he leaves the toilet seat up? Good Lord. Talk about stereo. That's surround sound griping. Right? Trash day? Can you imagine trash day in that house? Work with me, brother. Can you imagine when they go on vacation? Why don't you just pull over and ask? Why don't you just pull over and ask? Why can't you find directions? How can I? Man!
Take a dozen camels.
Phew, I'd be vacationing alone. Why he's on the top of his roof looking out all over anything, I don't know. I'd be in a building sequestered with the lights off. But we have diverted. And now back onto the path we shall go.
Are you going back to Leviticus 18:9?
Just in reference. Why? What's up?
It's another one.
Huh?
It says the same thing again.
Yes. And so you have all these things. So would David legally be able to give Tamar to Ammon?
Legally.
Legally. Is there anything, though, in this whole situation that is honoring God at all? None at all. Talk about some treachery. And your friend, I got a plan. When she goes to the bathroom, puts something in her drink. Works like a charm. Yeah, it does. It's called non-consent, too. Right? Look at the destruction that is coming from chapter 11.
Oh, this destruction came from
Way further back. But chapter 11 is where we begin to see this unraveling. And so you see where David has not necessarily been the best father and has raised his sons in a godly way. And if you go back all the way back to 1 Samuel chapter 1, you had a priest that had 2 sons. And they were wretches. And then you had a new judge, Samuel, and he had sons. And they were corrupted. And now you have a king. Now, oddly enough, the wicked king had an honorable son. I find that very ironic. The most wicked king you can think of had a very honorable son, almost to the point that his own dad, not almost to the point that his own dad tried to test out his target acquisition radar on his own son. He just couldn't throw that javelin. He just couldn't make it work. And even David, a godly king, now has cost him one son, now has another son rape his sister, his half-sister, thinks that it's okay, gets counsel from an individual that thinks it's okay, and her response is, please don't do that. And look, I understand with what she's trying to do, because I don't think she's actually making a solid argument that, you know, let's get married. I think it's more of, don't do this thing because this is ungodly. My dad will give you his hand, gets out of the room and goes, no. Because this is what gets boys killed. This is what would get a young boy killed if my daughter came back with a discussion like this. I would just need somebody's land and a backhoe. That's all I'd need. Or some pigs and some acid. Pigs and acid. Pigs and acid. Future boys, pigs and acid. And shotguns have no ballistic data. There. I said it. It can't be premeditated at this early of a date.
Feed him some of that meat you leave laying out.
How did David keep up with all his wives? You know about all
How
these.
did he even know all these children?
Well, at least he knows Tamar, Ammon, and Absalom. The others may be on a bubble, you know? And he's got Mephibosheth at his table, so he's got somebody else's kid there too. All right, let's take a look at the clock here. But he would not listen to her, being strong to her, who violated her. And Ammon then hated her with a very great hatred, so that the hatred with which he hated her was greater than the love which he had for her. It's an interesting phrase, is it not? What do you think that might be?
Well, the love that he had for her was the love that was lust.
Okay, there's a good thing to look at that. What he had was not necessarily love for her, but lust after her. Okay? But, okay.
I think he feared her too.
Okay, he feared what she would say.
Well,
Okay.
she is a princess, and
Well, yeah, I'm going to go tell Dad has a huge ramification in that household. Right? Yeah. I'm going to go tell Dad, I'm the son of the king. And there are responsibilities of the son of the king. But notice the phraseology is that he hated her more than he loved her.
it's very difficult for a sinner to look at their sin.
Yeah, that's what I said. I don't want to get all like psychologist on it, but I feel like
Go ahead, Dr. Ruth.
Yes.
Sorry, Dr. Phil.
he might. I can see that he is possibly projecting his shame onto her.
That's what I was thinking.
Exactly.
Like it sounds a little bit like psychology, but I don't know. That's what I see anyway.
He's blaming her, enticing him to do that.
Yeah.
Laban was the oldest son, is that right?
I'm not sure. Probably of.
He was in line to become the king, so that was another one of the prophecies for David's sin. Wasn't that the kingdom would be taken away? His lineage would be cut off.
I think so. I'll have to look to make sure. But I think you're onto something there, young Padawan. As soon we gotta get you a beer so you can stroke it while you're saying it.
I wish I could.
You know? Well, I think the biggest problem was that he was projecting his sin upon the young girl with whom he violated. Yeah, see, that would have gone off so much better. Yeah.
Sorry,
I come with sound effects.
Let some people play with that.
I think he's onto something here. He's hating her because she is a visual representation of the very verses he has just violated. The very thing he knew not to do it. Because what? How did he get this idea? His friend. You don't need friends like that in your life, people. Yes.
Mention, I mean, she pretty much called him out on all of it right before. So, like, that's all fresh in his mind. And he's like, you put this in my mind, and I'm now feeling bad.
Yeah. But he knows this. He should know this anyway. Yeah, and that's why one of the reasons why she's probably saying it. But you have here where you also have victim blaming here. This is not uncommon. It keeps going on for centuries afterwards. But the knowledge of what he's done has driven him to hate her more. And the thing that he wanted most is now the thing he cannot stand to be around. Let's see here. And Ammon said to her, get up and go. And she said, no, my brother, this wrong in sending me away is greater than the other that you did to me. But he would not listen to her. Does anybody know the verse that she's referencing? It's in the law. And you get a chance to look at it. It says that if a man sleeps with a wife or sleeps with a woman against her will, what's supposed to happen? Does anybody know?
Marriage.
That is correct. So now, whether David wants to or not, you have this conflict now of, because really what he's doing is creating this huge legal conundrum that you would need a professional lawyer to outdo. And so it just keeps getting worse. And he says, go, and she says, no, you can't send me away. And notice what he does. He calls the young men who serve him and says what? Doesn't even call her sister anymore. Put this woman out of my presence and bolt the door after her. This is the king's son. I did mention that a couple of times, right? So his servants put her out and bolted the door after her, and Tamar put ashes on her head and tore the long robe in which she wore, and laid her head in her hands, and went away crying and aloud and wept. And her brother Absalom said to her, has Ammon your brother been with you? Now hold your peace, my sister. He is your brother. Do not take this to heart. So Tamar lived a desolate woman and in her brother's Absalom's house. When David heard of these things, he was very angry. But Absalom spoke to Amnon neither good nor bad. For Absalom hated Amnon because he violated his sister Tamar. Do you see this ending well? We all know this story. But if you hadn't read this story at all in your life, with that last segment, do you see this ending well for Amnon? Or Ammon? Say again? This is how guys get killed. You know, there's a group of people going around in the woods dressed up as clowns, and they're coming up to people's doors. And there was a guy on one of the pages on Facebook that I'm a part of. He says, do you want to get shot? Because this is how you get shot. You want to get killed? Because this is how you get killed. Messing with someone's daughter, messing with somebody's sister, this is a great way for you to disappear. And in those days, it was game on. In our days, pigs and acid. Anyhow. I don't know how I know that. I just you know. Huh? I wasn't always. Well, anyhow, let's keep going. We're going to stop there because 23 and on, we're going to see how this folds out. Questions? Let's talk about this some if you want to. Questions? Discussion, thoughts, points.
Why did he suspect Amon? Why did Absalom suspect Amon?
Well,
instead of someone else?
Because one of the things I would say is that being close in the city together, sons of David, that it would have been known that she would have gone to his house to make cakes, is how I would have understood it. And news like this travels faster than almost feet can carry it. Have you ever noticed that? And, you know, so I think that there was probably an understanding that that's where she had gone, and now that she's crying, what has happened. And it's pretty evident by her demeanor and by her clothing and by all that has gone on, what has happened to her.
Between verse 18 and 19, I don't think there's very much time. I think that she was sitting outside the door. She crumpled down. She gets her little stash of ashes and puts them on her head, tears her garments, and she is mourning her loss of virginity right there and the loss of relationship with her brother because she saw him as a brother.
Now, here's another thing, too. This phrase, the long robe. One of the customs in Israel was that virgins wore long robes with long sleeves. And she tears the long robe, which is a sign that something has happened to her to not make her a virgin any longer.
And she's right outside his door.
And she's gone to Absalom's house. And she's crying along the way. So as she's going, it also could be the fact that she is also telling people what has occurred.
I don't think she has to tell them.
I don't think so either. I think it's pretty well assumed that if she has gone to bake bread, she has gone, and then her brother has taken advantage of her. This, and you would think this is about as bad as it could get for David. But it's not. I mean, this is bad. This is somebody is going to die. This is almost like a bad mob series.
Well, Amnon has sent all of his servants out of the room. So he's there by herself, so with her.
Yeah.
So his servants, I'm sure, didn't keep quiet about this.
No, they didn't. And then he has some of them come back in and throw her out and then bar the door. Classy move by Amnon's part. Classy move.
Would she normally have had a security detail with her?
I don't think so. I mean, you know, you got to think. You got to think with it. They're probably within a large complex, in which you have your own home, but yet you're not. I mean, it's not like she's leaving Killeen and has to go down Rancier to go to Harker Heights in the night. They're probably not very far away geographically located from one another. And so they're all actually confined within the city of Israel itself on top of the lone part of the finger. And so it's not a large section of city. So I would suspect that they are probably within very close proximity of each other. Because he's pretending to be sick, and no sooner she's there baking cakes, and then 20 minutes or more later, out she is, and to her brother's house she goes. And so, you know, it's a very tragic scene, and one in which riles all the family. But Absalom, you begin to see some of Absalom's shrewdness here in a little bit. And he kind of indicates it here. He speak neither good nor bad. Or sorry, but Absalom spoke to Amnon neither good nor bad, for Absalom hated Amnon. He didn't trash talk him.
Didn't speak to him at all.
Didn't speak to him at all. He's a silent man who has got a plan. Pigs and acid. Pigs and acid. You know that? Pigs will eat just about anything, Brother Clark.
Silence is cool.
At least it has been for the skeletons in my closet. I'm kidding. I just like watch. Delight was here. The reaction that she would have had, right? Any more discussion?
Just a comment.
Yeah.
Looking ahead, there's 2 years he's going to keep this inside of him. That's a long time to keep something as inside.
When you let something fester for that long, and you're ruining next week, but we'll go ahead and dive into it. Sure, we got some minutes. When you let something fester for 2 years, are you going to be thinking the best about that guy?
Sure.
Yeah, all right. Yeah.
Do to it, make it worse.
Pigs and acid, pigs and acid. Shotguns have no ballistic data. Yeah.
The guy thinks he's gotten by with
Yes, yes.
And he thinks he's gotten away with it. Who else thought they had gotten away with it? His daddy. You the man. You the man. And all of a sudden, it's going to go horribly wrong for Amnon. Or Ammon, however you want to pronounce his name. 2 years of planning is going to come to a very pivotal moment. And then you're going to see a dad's response. And it looks good, but there's something tragic about his response. Any other questions? Any other comments?
If I was Amnon and Absalom didn't speak to him, I would suspect something's going on.
Wouldn't you know? I wouldn't be, look, you know, I don't know if they concealed carried in that day, but I sure would be cacking some heat. And I don't know how much body armor he carried, but I think I'd go to level 3. You know? Amnon, why are you showing up with your helmet and your breastplate on? Well, you just never know. Jerusalem is turning rough these days. You know? Absalom comes on, hey, you want to go catch a gay together? No, I'm sick, brother. I got to go back and eat. Oh, no. I just, no, so, yeah. I wouldn't be walking anywhere with that brother alone. Huh? A brother. What a great offense. Think about it. What it takes to violate the sister of a brother, the daughter of your father, who's the king, and one of his wives. I mean, this is a great. The Greeks, I don't think, write a tragedy this bad.
That is the tragedy of sin.
That is. And one of the interesting things about when you read the Old Testament, people talk about how, you know, history is written by those who try to gloss over and glorify it. I go, well, apparently you have never really read the Bible, because when you read the Old Testament, God's people were leches and wretches. If this is cleaning it up, I'd really hate to see what it really was like if this is the cleaned up version, right? But yet this isn't. This is the unvarnished version of what they are. And not that we're rapists or things like that, but this is the unvarnished version of what we are when we... Uh-oh, I think I got the Clinton disease.
Jesus said, do it in your heart.
Yep. That is true. That is true.
Are there any guiltless?
No. No. Not a one.
People have a hard time. Said I lusted in my heart or whatever it was.
People really have a concept. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. Yeah. I know. I said it so subtly. I was working in there. I was seeing if y'all were awake, unlike this morning. I mean, man, talk about a frosted room. Every time I was cracking great material, people, and y'all just sat there. I mean, man.
We have a club started. Who can listen to your joke without cracking a smile? So you're not going to win that.
Yeah. The way to make a guy feel appreciated. All right, let us close out with a word of prayer. Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. And Heavenly Father, even for this great tragedy that we just read about and the evil that comes. That even through all of that, we still see a God who still loves his people, who loves the king over his people. And as this begins to unfold, we'll see how you as God work your will in this situation. Because ultimately, Solomon will be king. And he can't be king if Amnon is there. And he can't be king if Absalom is there. And so while all this tragedy is occurring, we see your providential hand working it out to where it's Solomon that will be king. And we ask for your continued blessing upon us as we go out and live our lives and live them in the utmost of your glory. We ask for your watch care over us. In your name we pray. Amen. Let's circle up. I'll move some of this stuff.